Big Game James Allen will be out there all weekend long, and so will Ashley Miller from WNYT and News Channel 13. We've got you covered. James does in the newspaper and the Times-Union. We've got you covered on News Channel 13 for sure. Big Game joins us every Friday, but again, this is almost, we are treating everything like it's a Friday show, even though it's a Wednesday. We have no show tomorrow, no show here on Friday, back on Monday. Good morning, Big Game. How are you?
Morning, Roger. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to seeing, these games and to see which teams are going to win. I think you can make a case for all of them winning. Let's take them in the order that they will come. And the first one is the Class D game. And I watched Cambridge. You were right. The opponent they played last week had no chance. That was a 66-6 game or something like that. It was so lopsided. Now they get Maple Grove noon on Friday, Class D state title game. Let's start with Cambridge and their chances of winning.
Well, it's interesting, Roger. This game. I think Maple Grove, has to be considered a favorite. They've been number one for a while, and they have a tradition similar in their section to what Cambridge has in our section. But the interesting element is, and even anybody from Maple Grove doesn't really know, they have a massive amount of injuries, including their starting quarterback hasn't played the last 2 weeks. He's a game-time decision Friday. Their star running back, who has over 1,500 yards, he got hurt in the first half last week against Sydney. His status is up in the air. He hasn't practiced this week. That's Bradley Benson, and one of their best linemen has been hurt, and their second best running back is battling a groin injury. So there's all these multitude of injuries that Maple Grove is dealing with, and it's really hard to get a gauge on what exactly is going to be hitting the field. So. Cambridge has got to take care of its business no matter who's lining up and who's carrying the ball and who's the quarterback. But it does add an element of intrigue, certainly from Maple Grove's perspective.
All right, so maybe Cambridge can get this thing done. It sounds like they've got certainly an opportunity. And then you go 2 games on Saturday, and at 12 noon, here goes the high-powered offense of Glens Falls against Shenango Forks. That's the noon game, Class B state championship. Is this a team in Shenango Forks that can slow down this Glens Falls offense and Joseph Girard III at quarterback?
Well, that's going to be the rub, Roger, because, Shenango Forks, they've won the last 3 Class C state championships. They've been ranked number 1 all year long. They've had very little difficulty moving up in level, and they've won 22 in a row. This is a program since 2001, 167 wins and 17 losses, and a lot of those losses were to somebody like Maine Enwell, who wound up going on to win the state championship in their classification. The last 3 years they were 12-1, and they lost to Maine Enwell. So this is a program that just is always here, and what they're so good at, Roger, what they've been able to do against so many good opponents and teams that came in like Glens Falls that had a high-powered offense. They dictate how the game's played. They get out to a lead. They play very much, smash-mouth football. We're coming downhill. This is what we're going to do. You beat us. We're not going to try to trick you. They don't throw the football all that much. But what they do is they usually get the lead, and they force opponents to get out of their elements, and then they force them to chase them, and then they usually get a lot of turnovers. And that's been their MO for over 15 years, and it's worked very, very well for them. So, Glens Falls, what they've been able to do throughout their playoff run, with the exception of the semifinal game in the section against Chalmont, is they've been able to jump out on opponents. They did it last week against Pleasantville, and Pleasantville got out of sorts because they were having to chase a team. Glens Falls, they've done a great job of protecting Joseph Girard, and if they can continue to give him that kind of time, one thing that makes Glens Falls very, very special is you have to defend the entire width and the length of the field against them. And small school football, that usually is pretty rare. Usually a team is very good at running or they're very good at passing, but they're usually not very good at both. And the Indians are very good at both, so that makes this one. I'm really looking. I've been looking forward to this game for a long time because I kind of anticipated that Glens Falls was going to be our Section 2 representative in Class B, and I thought they had a real good shot to get to the Dome. And I figured all along it was going to be Shenango Forks, and then this is exactly how it's turned out.
Well, we both are on the same page with Andrew Murphy. My colleague Chris Honorato yesterday, we featured Andrew Murphy as our high school athlete of the week. We do that every Tuesday night in our 6 p.m. Sportscast, a different high school athlete every night. And last night it was Andrew Murphy, and you featured Andrew Murphy today front and center on the front page of the Times Union Sports section. And he's a little guy, man, but he brings it, doesn't it? Every game he is fun to watch.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way, Roger. I mean, think about what Pat Lilac does. He plays him in the secondary. He plays him at linebacker. He puts him at the rush end. He's 169, but he gets results. He had over 10 sacks last year. He hasn't done it quite as much, coming off the edge this year as lining up as at the end. But he just makes plays. I mean, he's not a physically imposing guy, but he is relentless in his energy. He's always, he always seems to be in the right. You rarely ever see Andrew Murphy out of position in a play. And every time they've been in a couple of perilous situations this year, twice against Chalmont, he came through with huge performances. The second one was in the semifinals. They were down 7-0 at the end of the first quarter, and they were kind of scuffling along. And he had a block punt that he recovered and scored a touchdown. And then he had an 82-yard kickoff return in the second quarter, and they sort of seized control from that point and won that game easily. But yeah, he just makes plays, and Joseph Girard can't swear enough by him. He says, "Look, every time I see him look up, he's wide open." So that's a nice security blanket for a quarterback to have.
We're talking with James Allen, Big Game James, as we refer to him. He covers all the big games, and there's 3 of them in the high school football state championships, Carrier Dome, out in Syracuse. And then lastly, in the Double A's at 3:00 on Saturday, it will be Troy. And Bobby Burns and the boys will take on Victor out of Rochester at 3:00. How about Troy's chances of winning a state championship?
Well, it's interesting, Roger. I mean, they're playing a team that has a bunch of state champions. They're just not a bunch of state champions in football. This is a team that won the state championship in Class A last year in lacrosse, and they have a multitude of guys on the team that are Division I recruits that are already committed to schools. They're very physical. They like to play the same kind of style that Troy likes to play. They don't throw the ball nearly as much, but their running game has been pretty strong. They've run for over 3,000 yards. They've got a couple of guys in Esterbrook's got 20 touchdowns. He only has about 800 yards rushing, but it seems like every time they need a key first down, Esterbrook is the guy that gets it for them. And this is going to be an interesting game. I mean, I think that Victor, as for all our Section 2 teams, they're playing the number 1 team, and they've been the number 1 team for a little bit now. And I look at them and I say they're a very good team. I've looked at them on tape a few times. I've talked to a few people. They're very good. They're very good at the line of scrimmage. They're a bigger team than Troy, is, but that Troy dealt with that last week against New Rochelle. If Troy's offensive and defensive line can deliver the kind of performance they delivered last week against New Rochelle, Troy's got a very good shot. None of these games, I think you probably could look at all of them and say our teams are the underdogs going in for legitimate reasons. They're all their opponent's number 1, but you can make a case for all 3 of our teams. So it's always interesting to see how this plays out when we get here. Everybody thinks they have a real compass on who's going to do what, but until you get out there, until some guys, especially most of these players, they've never played in the Carrier Dome before. It's a different animal when they get out there. There might not be a filled stadium like it is for a Syracuse football game, but it's still it's definitely an experience, and it's always interesting to see how kids react to that moment.
Yeah, good luck to all 3 of those teams. Yesterday you had Troy practicing indoors at All-Stars Academy because of the indoor facility, the turf, and all of that as they get ready to go to the Carrier Dome. Big game. Have a great weekend out there. We'll be following for sure, and good luck to all 3 of our Section 2 teams. Bring home some state championships.
Yep, Roger. Don't eat too much bird, okay?
I'll give you a lot of turkey tomorrow.